hola, and marhaba to another episode of Gen Z AMIGAS weekly podcast, where we explore the defining experiences of Gen Z women navigating life in an ever-changing world. I'm your host, Maha Hana, born and raised in Dubai to Irish and Lebanese parents. Like many of you, I've spent my life moving between cultures, balancing identities, and redefining what home even means. So today we're diving into a topic that so many young women like us experience firsthand: what it means to be a Gen Z female international student. Leaving your home country to study abroad can be exciting, challenging, and sometimes isolating. Whether it's adjusting to a new culture, dealing with visa and financial pressures, or navigating career decisions after graduating, the international student journey and experience is full of unique hurdles, but also major opportunities. And so I just want to mention something. Here's what at stake statistics that I found, which is over 6.5 million students globally are currently enrolled in higher education outside their home countries. And this number is only growing, really. And women now make up over 50% of internationally mobile students, yet they face higher barriers related to safety, cultural gender norms, and career mobility. So the kind of question today is, how do Gen Z international women navigate this experience successfully? How do we turn these challenges into strengths? And to help us break this down, I'm joined by three guests who have lived this journey and will be sharing their insights today. So today we have Sofia Molina, Shams Badra, and Maria Eduarda Cruz, who are all studying at IE University and have come from Brazil, Mexico, Greece, and Tunisia. So let's get into it. So let's be real, being an international student is more than just studying abroad. It's this constant state of in between. We're in a new country, making friends from all over the world, but there is also this pullback to where we come from. And sometimes it feels like we don't belong anywhere. So, Sophia, I first want to ask you, you grew up in Mexico, your whole life, and then coming here to Spain. How has living abroad here in Spain changed your sense of maybe identity? Do you still feel connected to Mexico?
Yeah, of course, I will always feel connected to my home country. That's for sure. But also, that's a great point because leaving your country is also meaning that you want to grow. It's a process. It's a whole process from leaving your country to living by yourself, to living without your family, to living a new place where there's a completely different culture. For example, we live in Spain right now. I speak the language, but it's not the same. So there's still some bigger cultures that I have to adapt myself when I moved in. There's also the language barrier. Sometimes I don't understand Spanish people, or we're in such an international school that also we have to speak English most of the time to be able to communicate ourselves with other international students that are going through the same thing.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that's a great point. And obviously, do that also, you coming from Brazil, do you ever feel maybe possibly guilty for not wanting to go back home after graduation, or do you maybe feel pressure to?
Thank you for the invitation, Maha, first of all. And um, great question. I don't really feel guilty or pressured. I think it's valid for us to be able to explore different opportunities, even though it's abroad. And when I think about the future, I think that I want to see myself where I can have my career and where I can grow. And I think that going um abroad, as Sophia has just said, it makes us grow very, very much. You gain this independence like all of the sudden, and it's very valuable for us. And honestly, where I see myself in the future is where I can see work opportunities and growth opportunities. So I don't feel exactly wanting to go back home unless it's for a very good opportunity. This is my view of my future.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned and Sophia mentioned this term of kind of growth and adjustment and us moving to a new country like you said it builds us we grow a lot from it and obviously there's a lot of adjustments we have to make as well. So Shams, I want to ask you, you obviously grew up in Tunisia. So what has been that kind of biggest cultural adjustment since becoming an international student, you could say?
Um, when I think about like cultural adjustment, the first thing I thought about was like the language first.
Hmm.
For me was like the biggest part where I was like stressed about it, and going to a country where I generally don't speak the language and like administer for all the papers, the visa and all that stuff. I was really scared about that. But then, even if grew up in a like Muslim country where you can think like, okay, it's gonna be maybe really hard and like really a big change, I didn't really like feel that big shock where I had to like change the way I am or the way I behave. So I was really happy to like come to Spain, and it's really like a bit close to my culture. So I was happy to like come to a country where I didn't have to like change my whole behavior. And yeah, so I chose a country where I could like be myself.
Hmm. So could you say that you maybe found a sense of home here at
Yeah,
university? Yeah.
definitely, yeah, for sure.
Um, so I think maybe the key kind of takeaway from this is that the international student experience is basically an identity crisis in real time, but also, I mean, from your experiences, it's been very positive, and I think the kind of it kind of makes us more cultural people. But as graduation creeps closer, it's not just about where we feel at home, it's about where we can actually build a future. So what's next, you know? And I think that's probably the takeaway from this first kind of segment of the podcast. Now, I want to move into, and maybe, like I said, the post grad anxiety. Every international student has to face it, you know, the looming question. I mean, I've been thinking about it kind of recently. You know, we're all here in Segovia. Now we're moving to Madrid, going into our third year after the summer. So maybe what happens after graduation? Do we try stay in our host country or go back home or move somewhere maybe completely new? And let's not get even started about more job hunts and internships and figuring out where the best opportunities actually are. So, Duda, I want to ask you, when you think about life after graduation, where do you imagine yourself staying here, going back home, or somewhere completely different? What does that kind of look for you, or do you not even know?
I think that nowadays it's very hard to have a very structured and inflexible 5-year plan ahead. Especially in our age and like in the world we're living now, that it's changing all the time. And but personally, I'm very open to continue in Europe. But I'm also curious to trying something completely new, for instance, going to the US maybe. Um, but I'm not really tied to a specific destination, you see. It's more like the kind of career I want to build and the opportunities that will probably appear in the future.
Yeah.
But for sure, I want to find something that will be meaningful and to be able to hard work and to grow. And I think that honestly, it's a very like a strength of our generation is being flexible and open to change. I think that like some people expect us to have everything figured out um and have like a strict path, but I think that things are changing very much and we have to be able to quickly adapt to that. And yes, I think that that's a very valuable thing that our generation has.
Hmm. Shams, what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with do that in terms of life after graduation?
Yeah, I totally agree with her because it's really hard, as she said, to like have a plan now. And I think that everything moves so fast that you cannot really like know what's gonna happen in like 3 years even. And so I think you have to just take your time and try to make the right decision for what's happening like right now in the present, and not try to like think like in the future for like 10 years because I don't think it's possible. And just with like the opportunities like staying, living, just depends on like, of course, like what you can do with like your passport, your visa, and everything, but also like with what you want and what's like works with your values.
Hmm.
And I think it's just a mix of both, and where of course you feel comfortable, and that's all.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, from Dula and Shams, what you're saying, it kind of depends on so many factors. You can't really plan out a life where like you don't know what opportunities are gonna hit you. And so, Sophia, I wanna bring it towards you. Like, do you feel like there's pressure to maybe follow that kind of safe path, like going home back to Mexico? Or are you leaning into the adventure of living somewhere new? Maybe also a study abroad could sway you one way in terms of university as well.
Yeah, so like for me, when I moved away from home, it was because I wanted to seek another viable possibility than living in Mexico. Because the economy, the work opportunities are not the best. So I was like studying abroad, that was my opportunity to go find myself, find the opportunities that I wanted to study exactly what I wanted. And the career that I chose, which is industrial design, but also business administration, the hard thing is the design part to find a country or a place that I would live in that's really specified, that's really developed in that certain type of industry, which Mexico City it is, but it's not. Like I could go to other countries where there are more job opportunities for that type of sector that would rather focus on. Also, I don't feel the pressure to go back to Mexico because my parents raised me to always get the best opportunity you can get, to always put yourself out there, to always try new things. And if you don't like them, that's fine. I know a lot of people that tried going abroad and didn't like it. They liked more their culture. They didn't want to like grow or change. They just didn't feel comfortable in another place, and that's fine. That's totally, completely fine. But for my case, going abroad made me better, maybe who I am, made me change, made me grow up, made me realize a lot of things in life that were given to us and made us appreciate what we had so we can in the future work for the exact life that we had or a better life to
Yeah.
have better work opportunities and everything. So I think me and my like 5 year plan, it's true what Duda and Sham said. Like we cannot have a 5 year plan because there's so many things happening in the world, so many politics happening, economic things. Like we have to take in like we have to consider that we cannot have an exact plan like maybe other generations because the world is not as stable as it was maybe before, or maybe we have other opportunities that maybe they offers a job in Italy and we can pick it. If they offer me a really good job in Mexico, I would consider it. It depends also on the career you want to choose and what you want to be when you graduate, of course.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, and I mean in terms of graduation and thinking about that long term, I mean, I think nowadays we can see how especially our generation is becoming a lot more flexible, remote work, digital nomad vibes, not feeling tied down. But, I think we all agree that at some point we need to kind of settle, or is that concept dead? Or for international students, the stakes feel even higher because where we end up isn't just about lifestyle, it's about visas, work permits, the global job market. And, I do think that us being in a place where it's not our home country will set us up for adapting to that global job competitive market. And so, Shams, I want to ask you, do you see yourself settling down in one country eventually, or are you maybe embracing the kind of nomadic lifestyle?
I think to a point I'm gonna one day settle down and like
Hmm.
one day like have my family, and but I think before that I would love to like just travel around the world, try to like have them like most of the experience I can have, and like discover, and even if I have to like work and die and like just I don't mind. But I think at a point I just have to like find a way to either go back to my country or, as you said, the visa is a problem. For example, for me with my Tunisian passport, um, I I just don't can't decide like, yeah, okay, tomorrow I'm just gonna work in France or work in Spain. It's a bit harder than that. And that's also a factor for me. And I would love to like see myself like have just be in a country where I can be like stable and not like be scared of like any other environment factor. But yeah, one day I would love to like settle down and just be in a place where I feel comfortable. It could be home or I can find a new home. As I don't know if it's like as me with my culture, if I want to like I would love to stay close to my family. But I don't mind going anywhere in the world just till it works and like it's good and I'm comfortable there. I don't mind.
Yeah. Um, do that. I was actually going to ask you in terms of, do you think that Gen Z is more focused on that life quality, like work-life balance, over money and status when it comes to career planning? Do you think that there's that shift in priorities? As Shams said, she wants to, have that base and, be close to her family. And so do you think that there's more focus on that life quality, work-life balance, or or over money and status when it comes to that career planning?
Totally. I think that there's a real shift. Like our generation, Gen Z, I see a lot wanting to be more fulfilled in what they do. They care more about maybe mental health, more freedom, flexibility, especially after the pandemics. I think that a lot of people realized that they could have that. And I don't think that means that money doesn't matter anymore, of course, but I think that the Gen Z is seeing that that's not the only thing. Like people want to live well, not work endlessly. So they want to find more like meaningful work, more balance. But I think that at the same time, this really much depends on the reality you're in. So for instance, if you say that to someone maybe in Brazil that don't have the best opportunities and I don't know, maybe they can say that this is not a reality and they have to work very, very, very hard every day, and they still have to like this pressure to find financial stability over everything. And I don't think that also that applies to everyone in Gen Z, because at the same time that this shift is going on, the job market is very, very, very much competitive, more and more. So yes, so I think that there are the two sides of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, there's kind of two sides to that. Some, like you're saying, it's circumstantial. Some people don't really have a choice, if they need to work to, provide a life for them, for their family, etc. And some people have other opportunities, more open opportunities. So, Sophia, I want to ask you, where would you live post grad? Would you, embrace your kind of opportunities? You're here as an international student, you're studying design. Is that something that may alter, what are your thoughts on maybe Dula's point and that question?
Yes, I do think I am a person that will adapt to the place. Of course, I need to be, as Sham said, comfortable with the place. And as Dula said, like it's also about, for me, opportunities, right? If I get a really good opportunity job in Dubai, well, I'm gonna have to try it. Like I'm gonna have to put myself out there. I'm gonna have to go learn all of their culture because I also love traveling and I also love uh being in new places. Coming to Spain was, I think, one of my best decisions I've ever made. And I'm in love with the place and I made such good friends and such like I've met so many great people, so many good connections, and I learned a lot by my of myself and what I could put in the plate for the opportunities for other things. I would say maybe settling like in the first part of my life after graduating to eventually creating a family, as Sham said, and really put like my base And a country, I could say maybe Europe, or maybe to find like the best opportunities for young adults and for the Gen Z generation, which is a bit harder than other generations because now the work opportunities are limited. We are a lot of people in this world trying to look for a job, trying to have stable economy, trying to become independent. That's also something that we really need to focus on, and that it's going to be harder for our generation, I think, but also because we value more to be mentally stable and to find like a work balance, to have a social life, but also balancing that we can work and being economically stable. I think that's what our generation is focused on because I've also seen past generations that they just chose a work because they will get them the enough financial stability they want, but they really do not love what they do. And really, they're kind of like, they create kind of a hatred to that job. Where, for example, me, I was taught to choose something that I really loved, and that will make you financially stable because if you love something that you work on, that will be what will make you succeed in a certain
Yeah,
type of point.
the passion, yeah. Yeah, the
Exactly.
truth, I mean, the truth is there's no right answer. Some of us want stability, others want constant change. A lot of us are just trying to figure out maybe one visa application at a time. There's a lot of factors that depend on this, and I think that's kind of maybe what you could describe as the international student life. It's a wild ride, and the future's still wide open for all of us. And it's exciting, chaotic, and honestly, personally, as an international student, it can also be, lonely sometimes. You're floating between two or more worlds, constantly wondering where you fit in. But at the same time, there's something powerful about knowing the whole world is an option, even if it comes with challenges and cultural shifts and that kind of what's next anxiety. And I think Gen Z is moving away from the old graduate, go home, settle down formula, more or less. We're chasing life experiences, flexibility, and careers. They give us options. And as international students, we're kind of leading that charge, whether we like it or not. Personally, I would like to kind of like with Shams's point, settle down back in the Gulf, preferably Dubai. I was born and raised there. I think it's a future of opportunity. And I would just like to have like a closing question for you guys. What would be one piece of advice you'd give a first year international student just, starting this journey? Shams, I'd like to start with you. What would your advice be for
I
maybe
think the
yeah.
first thing I would say to like a first year, it's like get used to miss home. Like you're gonna miss home from the beginning to the end. Like you're gonna feel alone, you're gonna feel sad, especially first year. Like I remember when I arrived first year, I was like, how did no one told me about houses? Like this experience is so hard. Like it's impossible. Like I'm alone in a country and I feel like so far from everyone, especially Spain, like Segovia. So like I felt like every move I had decided and I choose to be like the farthest I could and the furthest I could. And now I think everything you have to do is for a reason. It's meant to be. And like, if you had one day the strength to decide to go outside of your country and to leave your country, then it means that you had to experience that and that you have to embrace like every phase of like feeling alone, but also knowing new people, all those parts of like the international student life. Just try to embrace every steps of it. And you'll see that at the end, if you try to do it well and if you like don't close yourself and like just reject that experience, you're just gonna learn a lot. Like even if it's not maybe the best experience of your life or whatever, you're just gonna learn, and that's the best part because you're learning a new language. You're learning how even you're learning about yourself, and that's the biggest like the best thing ever. And so experiences are made for that, and I think just try to embrace every phase, and you'll see.
Yeah. I think two words that I picked up on, embracing and learning. I think those are cute, big two words that you could describe as, good advice to go into your first year as an international student. Do that. What do you think?
I totally agree with Shams. Missing home is part of the process, and you learn very much with that. You get used to that, and once in the beginning, of course, you are making your friends, but then you will realize that the friends you have here are passing through the same situation, and they become your family. So it's a big family, and we are all going through the same situation, so it becomes way easier to go through that. And also, I think that we have to see that this is a big, like, growing every day path we're going through, and it gets easier as the time passes. And I think that we have to, the first year is the hardest one. You're adapting, you're changing everything, the whole reality, something that you're not used to. In the beginning, I am privileged enough to have family also in Portugal. So I was able to go back sometimes and see my family a bit so that wouldn't miss them so much. But then after, when you have the whole network of friends and you start like having more activities with them, it becomes way easier, and you start loving your new life so much that you don't see yourself again in your ex life.
Mhm.
So I think that's the beautiful thing of moving abroad, and you have to embrace it. You have to go through the difficult phases so that after the good part, the whole diversity, the whole finding new things out, seeing we're in a very good university doing a dual degree with business and data analysis is very, it's bringing me so much more opportunities than I could ever have if I weren't here and didn't do all of these changes. So I think that you have to embrace the hard part to after enjoy the all of the good that comes out of it.
100%. Yeah, so I think from what I'm gauging, it just takes time, you know. You're not gonna have an easy time straight away. It's all about going through the processes. I mean, I define it as maybe, you know, every kind of hard time, there's a definition of character building. You're building your strength mentally, you know, to face the world after, you know, moving away from home. So, Sophia, I just want to ask you one last time, what would your advice be to someone you know coming into their first year, not just in Spain, but in general, being an international student?
Yeah, I think at the start I would tell them it's okay that you can have a hard time. It's okay not to feel like at home. It's okay to feel like a stranger in a place where you don't feel like you fit in. But I would say just don't give up yet. Don't give up. Just give it a year. Don't give up. And little by little, you're gonna get used to being in another country, used to their culture, used to um, doing things that normally you wouldn't do at home. Also, you have to grow up, like you have to change. I don't see change as a negative thing. I see change as a positive thing that will impact your life. As we know, as canon moments, like that will create who we are, create our person, create how we think, create how we can problem solve things. Like if we have a problem now that we don't live with our families, that we don't have people really close to us that would help us normally, like it used to, we have to learn how to do it ourselves. We have to also learn that we can also create, as Duda said, a family here with our friends because everyone is going through the same thing. Like that's what I realized when I moved here. I was like, okay, everyone's trying to make friends, everyone's trying to socialize, everyone just tries to be themselves and survive in this international world, right? So I think I would say just don't give up and also cherish every single moment. Even if you're having a hard time, this will impact your life forever. Studying abroad will change you. Like if you stay home, yes, you would grow in a certain type of way, but not as much as just jumping and going straight to the real life. How does it look like? How to be completely independent, how to try to figure your own things out. And I think that's really good to
Yeah.
do. And I would really recommend going abroad.
I mean, I also recommend going abroad. I think it's for those that have the opportunity and privilege to. And so I think, you know, learning, embracing, not giving up, and creating your own new community and family, I think is what a lot of international students face. And, you know, I think depending on you, you start to depend on the people around you because they're the only people that you have, you know. So I think the growth is a huge, and I'd say probably the biggest factor that happens once you become an international student. And so I think that's a wrap on today's episode of Gen Z Amigas. Thank you to Shams, Sofia, and Duda for joining today and sharing their real stories about life as an international student. It's messy, it's confusing, but I think we could all agree that it's actually very beautiful, you know. And so to our listeners, where do you see yourself post-graduation? Going home, staying put, chasing new opportunities? Please drop your thoughts in the comments and keep the conversation going on Climate Penpal's media, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Until next time, goodbye, adios, and ma salam.